Good morning. Welcome to our Women's Wednesday Entrepreneur Series. I'm Brande Stitt, the Program Director for the Women's Business Center in Kansas City. Thank you all for joining us. This is a series of sessions that we have hosted since April of 2020, focusing on a variety of different business topics, everything from WBE certification, which we're going to hear again today. We've had several sessions on social media, as well as business financial topics and a wide variety of other sessions. We are recording this webinar as we have been recording all of our previous sessions. It will be posted on our YouTube channel once we have the opportunity to get it edited and posted. All of our previous sessions are also posted on that YouTube channel. If there are some that you've missed that you'd like to check out, or some sessions that you participated in and just want to revisit, that will be the place to go. I will be sharing a link to our YouTube channel in the chat box throughout the session today, so certainly feel free to check that out. I will also be asking that you use chat and the Q&A if you have any questions for Mary. I will be monitoring both so that I can pop in with any of your questions that you have so that she can address those during this session. So at this time, I want to go ahead and welcome you to our Women Business Enterprise WBE certification session. I know Mary's going to talk a lot more about more than just WBE certification. So there's going to be a lot more to cover other than just that. But we're so glad that you can be here with us. Our presenter for today is Mary Shannon. She's the founder and consultant for Connect Us Worldwide. She's done this session for us before. It was really fabulous. So I know that you guys are going to be really happy with all the content that Mary's going to cover for you today. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Mary Shannon.
Thank you, Brande. I appreciate that so much. I just want to get started by saying good morning to everyone, and thank you for attending Is Certification Right for You? As business owners, we're all looking for ways to grow and expand our businesses. So at the end of this presentation, I hope that you walk away with new tools in your toolkit, information that can help support your business goals and objectives. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, Brande, and share my screen. There you go. Is certification right for you? Today's learning objective is to develop an understanding of certification. We're going to talk about what is certification, the certification groups, is certification right for you, the requirements and benefits, the types of certifications, I have my certification, now what? And we're going to talk a little bit about capability statements. So we've got a lot of materials to cover, and hopefully at the end, if you have questions, as Brande has stated, either during the presentation or at the end of the presentation, please feel free to put that in the chat box. We're going to start out, who is Connect Us Worldwide? We're a minority woman-owned business enterprise. We have 30 years of corporate and public sector experience in supplier diversity, public relations, project management, operations, and in procurement. We see ourselves as collaborative bridge builders, as well as change agents. Who do we serve? Diverse businesses, minority, women-owned, disadvantaged, veteran, and LGBTQ, as well as majority organizations, which are in the corporate and public sectors. We do pre-application for certification. We have a secured client portal where you can upload information 24/7, see the results. It's secure because we know that the information that the certifying agencies are requesting is very confidential. So we want our clients to feel at ease with the information and where it's uploaded into the clouds. We do coaching and development, business performance, and readiness. We have access to key corporate and government contacts that we work with our clients to get introductions. And then on the corporate side, we do supplier diversity program development, public participation and engagement consulting, as well as mediation services. Now, let's get to certification. Certification is the first critical step in building a relationship with corporate and government entities. It is a competitive tool, but what it's not is a guarantee of business. Certification refers to the authentication of certain requirements. So when you apply for certifications, whether it's at the city, state, or federal levels, there are requirements that you have to send into that agency. So that way, when you get your certification, you are deemed as being a vetted supplier. Certifying agencies may include, again, federal, state, or city departments, and there's also nationally recognized third-party organizations. For an example, corporations. Most corporations have supply diversity programs, and a percent of their total domestic spend is spent with small and diverse businesses, women-owned, veteran, LGBTQ, etc. And so they normally have memberships with those national recognized third-party organizations. And we'll get into it a little bit later in the presentation, who those organizations are. The process includes the collection of business information, your financial sheets, your ownership data, and most of your certifying agencies will conduct a site visit. So they come to you, or during COVID, those site visits are conducted online. And the purpose of them is to assure that you are that 51% owner, that you are the person that manages and controls the day-to-day management of the business, which is very important. They don't want someone who claims to be 51% owner, and then really they're just kind of in the office and not really running the business. So that's kind of the purpose for wanting to be able to vet. When we look at the groups that are under the guise of small and disadvantaged, that would cover Black or African American, Hispanic American, Asian, Pacific, Native Americans, women, veterans, and LGBT. Is certification right for you? If you can answer these 5 questions, are you a diverse business? Is your product or service targeted at corporations and/or government entities? Does your business have the capacity to deliver quality products or services? Number 4, do you have the opportunities to expand and grow your business? Do you have the scale to be able to grow? Do you have resources, employees, etc.? And lastly, are you willing to share the details of your business? Once again, going back to the requirements of providing financial statements, such as your operating agreements, your taxes, bank signature cards. I mean, there's a litany of documents that are required. So you have to be willing to share those with those agencies. What you have to be to get your certification, a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. You must possess 51% ownership, management, and control of business. And your profit enterprise has to be physically located in the United States. So if you have several locations, as long as your business headquarters is in the US. And you must be a for-profit. So certification is not for nonprofit enterprises. If you're publicly held, you have to have at least 51% of the stock owned by the member or members of the certification group. And then if you're LGBT, you must exercise independence from any non-LGBT business enterprise. Now we'll talk about the benefits of certification. What does certification do for you? It enhances your company's exposure as a diverse business. You have access to government and corporate contracts. It positions you in a highly competitive marketplace. And then with the SBA, you have access to capital, guaranteed loan programs. So we all know that during COVID, there were several acts that the government passed. The number one was the CARES Act, when this program started off with PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, and EIDL, which was through the government. And this funding gave small businesses the opportunities to rebound from COVID. It was projected last year that 41% of small businesses by the end of 2020 would have to close their doors. So the government, this was their way of providing funding to small businesses. And then we've gone into the American Rescue Plan, which is another, I believe, $2 trillion that's been allocated to further, helping small business. So businesses on Main Street have felt the repercussions of, their cities being shut down and etc. So there's lots of things that are being done in order to enhance small business and help them to grow and expand. Another benefit is it offers networking and introduction that can lead to building relationships with your prospective customers. So whether it's city, state, or federal, or corporation that you want to do business with, when you have that certification, it gives you an opportunity to network with those businesses that you want to do business with. We all know it's important to be plugged in, if you will, that we attend different events. So we're around people, other business owners, as well as the companies that we are pursuing. Certification enables access to those supplier diversity advocates. So whether it's a government entity or corporation, supplier diversity leaders or advocates are individuals that are responsible for ensuring that their supply chains are diverse. When I was the supplier diversity manager for Hallmark Cards, that was my role. So I traveled looking for small and diverse businesses to ensure that our supply chain was diverse. And you will find that with Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies across the country, they have those supplier diversity programs. And that's what they do to ensure that that pool of suppliers that are coming in are diverse, giving them an opportunity to shine and to grow their businesses. And again, whether it's government or corporation, you might have a circumstance where you're down to two suppliers. One is certified and one is not. All things being equal, your certified supplier has gone through the process, they're vetted, and so could easily rise above in terms of being more competitive for that particular RFP. Being certified shows a level of commitment to the prospective customer. It shows that you took that next step to go and get certified, to get plugged in, to attend networking events, to understand what are the needs of the corporation. So certification can mirror how you want to approach government or corporations in terms of being in their supply chain. What is supplier diversity? It's defined as the process of finding and growing diverse suppliers into the execution of corporate strategy. It's a top-down strategies that most corporations have. And so when we look at diversity and inclusion, which is more internal facing, looking at diversity in your employees, supplier diversity is kind of external facing, making sure that the focus is on supporting suppliers from underrepresented groups, such as minority, women, disadvantaged, veterans, LGBT, and disabled business. When we look at diverse business, again, when we look at those groups, diverse and small businesses being the focal point, businesses that are owned by diverse members of the population. And when we look at most of our businesses, we know our NAICS codes. And the NAICS codes was established by the SBA because the NAICS codes will determine whether you are a true, by definition, a small business. And then when we look at the different classes of businesses that are either socially or economically disadvantaged, these are the groups that fall under that definition. When we look at supplier diversity by the numbers, according to the Hackett Group in 2019, they did a study. And these companies were contributing 10 to 15% of their annual sales to their supplier diversity program. So once again, a corporation will look at their total domestic spend. They will set a goal and say, we're going to do 10 to 15% of that annual spend with women-owned businesses, minority businesses, etc. There's also a group that's called the $1 Billion Roundtable. And this is 28 corporations across the country. And they do $1 billion annually of spend with small and diverse businesses. Another example is that AT&T alone has done 14 to 17 billion, which is 20 to 30% of their total domestic spend. And then in 2017, this $1 Billion Roundtable spent $77 billion. And then they began to incorporate service disabled, veteran-owned businesses, disabled, and the LGBTQ businesses. And that started back in 2017. What we're going to do now is that this is a little bit busy, but what I want you to get from this particular slide is the various agencies, the certifications that you can obtain from these agencies, and the terms, which most of them are annually, but there are a few exceptions. So for example, if you're wanting to do business with the city of Kansas City, the certifications that you can get from them are MBE, WBE. The DBE is for disadvantaged business enterprises. And then they also have the ACDBE, which is for the airports, because we have a lot of businesses that wanted to do business with the airport, whether it was from an engineering, a structural perspective, or from a professional services. The city also has the small business enterprise, the small local business enterprise, and then the SLBE, WSDEPS, which is a part of the water department. So these are the certifications that the city of Kansas City will give. When we look at the state of Missouri, they have certifications, MBE and WBE. The state of Kansas does MBE, WBE, and DBE. Again, DBE is for disadvantaged business enterprises. It's a federal certification. So when we talk about federal certifications, we're talking about a certification that is not only federal, but consistent in rules, as well as if you are a business headquartered in Missouri and you want to do business in Kansas, Colorado, Texas, etc., that is what that particular certification will do for you. In most cases, if you're headquartered in Missouri and you want to do business in Colorado, then the state of Colorado will normally request your DBE for Missouri. They may have you do some additional paperwork, but at least they know that you've already been vetted in your state. So it makes that process easier. So just certification to keep in mind when you want to do business in more than one state. Then we have the federal government, the SBA, and they have small business programs. A lot of businesses, once they're have expanded in growth, they do joint ventures and partnerships. The revenue is at a certain point. They're ready for the 8A program. And the 8A program is a 9-year program. The first 5 years, you're actually in the program, and the last 4 is spent on transitioning out. And then you have your small disadvantaged business certification. You have the WOSB, which is your women-owned small business. Now, this particular certification, you can do an application. You can self-certify. And also, you have a national third-party organization that can also give you that certification as well. You can apply through their agency to get that WOSB. The EDWOSB is for disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged, women-owned small business. And then you have your service disabled, veteran-owned small business, and then Hub Zone. And Hub Zone is where your business is located in a economically disadvantaged area. 35% of your employees have to be from that disadvantaged area as well. And so you can see what the annual renewal or the terms are for those particular certifications. And we'll go into a little bit more about the government certifications. We have the American Jobs Plan, which is that plan from the government that's talking about infrastructure and jobs. And so this particular plan, it surrounds businesses being able to do more business with the federal government. So that would be a plus in terms of whether you're doing business with corporations currently and you want to do business with the federal government or vice versa. So it's nice to know that there is a plan in place that would bring in more small businesses to be able to participate in these large scale projects. And we'll talk about those set-asides that the government has in place today. We have the NGLCC, which is for the LGBT certification. We have the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And then the Mountain Plains is your regional here in Kansas City. And so we have the NVBDC, which is for veterans and service disabled, and then WBENC. WBENC is the national certifying agency for women. And again, they also have the approval to do the WOSB, which is the federal certification. So if you were getting your WBE through WBENC, you could also, it's kind of like 2 birds with 1 stone. You could get them both, your women and your WOSB. So now you have that third-party certifying agency certification, as well as a federal one. So it's always nice to look at what are your goals and objectives, and how do you go about making the decision as to not only is certification right for you, but what type of certification are you going after? Now we're going to go into a little bit more of a breakdown in terms of what these certifications are all about. I know I've given you a lot of information this morning, but hopefully the breakdown of what these certifications are and some of the requirements will help you out as well. So DBE, that is, again, the program that is federally mandated and administered by the Department of Transportation. To get your DBE certification, your status must be socially and economically disadvantaged. Your personal network cannot exceed $1.3 million. You have to meet the SBA size standards, once again, connecting back to your next code. And then your average gross receipts are not to exceed $24 million. A firm certified in their home state can apply to another one, headquartered in Missouri, wanting to work in Colorado. And the outside state has the discretion to accept your current certification, which most states will. LGBT business enterprise. The opportunity for an LGBT-owned business to differentiate themselves from other competitors. They collectively team with others, LGBT business enterprises for contracting opportunities. The benefits with certifying as an LGBT business enterprise is that after 1 year of certification, they have a scholarship program. They have mentorship, leadership training, and business development tools. And so getting that certification at a national level, if you go through your local commerce chapter, they will waive that $400 certification fee. So that's always nice to know if that's one of the certifications that you would be considering. When we talk about the minority certifications, the MBE, several types of MBE certifications would be at the federal, state, and city, which we saw in our chart, as well as your nationally recognized third-party organization, and that ties back to the National Minority Supplier Development Council. You have your National Minority Supplier Development Council, which has 23 regional affiliates. And so that's across the country. And again, Mountain Plains has, I believe it's Missouri and Kansas and Colorado and Iowa. So they have several territories. When you go after their certification at that national level for minorities, you have access to free workshops, seminars, and training classes, conferences, and matchmaking events. So once again, when you get your certification, depending on which certification, and you can have more than one, you can have multiple certifications. It gives you, again, an opportunity to network, to be connected, to attend matchmaking events where you're there, the various corporations. And so with that in mind, if you're pursuing, whether it's government or corporations, make sure you do your homework. Make sure that you understand what are some of the problems that this business is having and how can you solve their problems? How can you be cost effective and be able to help them to scale and grow as you go along with them? The SBA, we know that they have guaranteed loan programs, the 8A, Small Business Assistance Program for small disadvantaged businesses, woman-owned small business, the WOSB, has a 5% contracting goal. And then your Hub Zone, once again, created to assist businesses in economically depressed areas. Veteran-owned businesses, they're also set-asides, which are 5%. So we're going to get into a little bit more about those contracting goals. So the federal government has set-asides for their contracts for small and diverse businesses. So small businesses, the goal is 23% that they want to spend with small business, and the certification would be a small business certification. The small disadvantaged business, which is through the 8A and the small disadvantaged business, there's a 5% set aside goal for that group. And then your hub zone, your historically underutilized business zone, there's a 3% set aside. And you have to do an application for that one. Your WOSB, which is your women-owned small business, there's a 5% set aside for those contracts. And then we look at your service disabled or veteran-owned small businesses, there's a 3% set aside. So all information to know, because when you really think about it, as small businesses, as small diverse businesses, if we don't apply for these certifications and we don't go after these contracts, then it's very easy to lower those goals because there's nobody applying for those contracts. So it's really good to put that effort in and look at those RFPs, and if they're right for your company, to go after them. Because we would hate for these set aside goals to be able to be diminished. And the only reason for that is because, okay, well, nobody's applied. So we don't want that to happen. Okay, so when we look at the city certification, it enables MWBs to expand their participation in the KCMO contracting opportunities. It also applies to the water department. The SLBE certification for the city of Kansas City, this program is open to participants without regard to race, color, sex, religion, national or ethnic origin, age, disability. And there's also a 5% bid incentive to the small local business enterprise firms that qualify. So with the Kansas City, Missouri SLBE program, you can go for an RFP, you can be the awardee, and you can be the prime contractor. And it doesn't require any minority or women goals attached to it. You don't have to be a subcontractor. Once again, you can go in as prime. So this program does not replace the MWBE program. It's just another option that the city affords to a small local business that is not considered diverse. We look at veteran certification, or WBE. You have your third-party certifications, which is NBBDC, the National Veterans Business Development Council, and NAVOBA. Another, means or an avenue to get your veteran certification. The CVE VOB certification. This is restricted by law to certify only small businesses. And then the NBBDC, they service disabled and veteran owned. The one thing about the NBBDC, they've only been in existence since 2014. So since that time, what they did was mirror the National Minority Supplier Development Council and We Bank for Women on their program and their application. So if you have a certification through NGLCC or We Bank and the NMSDC, they will fast track your application because they know you've been vetted. They know you've been through this process, and so it goes much faster because normally to get your certification, it is about, most agencies, 30 to 45 days. So that's when we get into missed opportunities. Once you make that decision that certification is right for you, then to get the process started is a good thing to do. Because when opportunity knocks and they're looking for certified business owners, then when you look at the amount of time it takes upfront, pulling documents, getting everything prepared, and then actually submitting and then getting it reviewed, you won't make it. I mean, you just don't have enough time. So it's better to be prepared and have the certification, opportunity knocks, and you're ready to go. So that's what I would recommend if certification is right for you. Now, we're going to talk about women's certification. There are several types: WBE certification entities at the federal, state, and city, which we saw once again in our chart. Then we have the national third-party organizations, WBE, which has 14 regional partners across the US. We have the Women's Business Development Center. WBE is a regional certifying partner. They too have mentoring and educational programs, and they certify WBE and WOSB federal contracting. So this, again, information is kind of a review, but it's a lot of information that's being given out today. So again, it's hopefully helpful to understand which of each of these certifications, what they bring you and what they mean. We also, when we look at women's services, we have the Women's Business Center. And Brande, if you're there, would you like to talk about the services that the Women's Business Center has?
Yes, thanks, Mary. So part of what we offer are workshops and training sessions, just like the one that you're participating in today. We like to help women that are starting businesses, growing businesses, or looking to fund their business as well. So we do provide a lot of one-on-one counseling. Right now, we're doing everything virtually, so we can set up a phone call, we can do emails, set up a Zoom meeting, but we do a significant amount of our work individually with our clients, and that's at no cost to our clients to participate. And quite frankly, right now, most of our programming is at no cost, such as this training program today. We also have Launch You, which is a business plan development program. This is an 8-week program for individuals that are thinking of starting a business or that are at the very early stage of their business that need to work through their business plan. So look at feasibility analysis, develop financial projections, think through a competitive analysis and a marketing strategy. And so this incorporates not only facilitation, but we have small group coaching as well. That's part of this program. Again, we're still virtual at this point, but someday we'll be back in person doing work as well. We also help our clients access microloans. So these are loans that are very small dollar loans for individuals that are unbankable. So could be low credit score, not the right collateral mix, a lot of reasons why they might not be able to traditional. Right now, we're significant and counseling individuals trying to apply for the SBA PPP loans, the EIDL loans. We're gearing up to start getting folks ready to apply for the Restaurant Relief Fund. So if you know people that are restaurateurs, caterers, food trucks, there's a really great opportunity to receive some grant funding the end of April, early May. That's probably going to move pretty quickly. So we want people to be ready before that application opens. So we're really gearing up to have folks ready for that. And then we also have a Women's Capital Connection, which is our angel investment group, and they make equity investment in high growth businesses that are seeking equity investors. So we have kind of a wide spectrum of clients that we serve in a variety of capacities. So, certainly this session today with Mary is a great example of what we do.
Great. Thank you, Brande. I appreciate that. So as you can see, there's so many different services that the Women's Business Center offers. So it's always, again, certification, being connected, taking advantage of training and workshops. And we all know that we've all been at a point where we either bootstrapped our business or we went after loans, and sometimes those loans were denied. Sometimes they came through. And so it's always great to have the attend the workshops on how to prepare yourself to go into a bank and to get a loan. It is a preparation. I mean, you just don't walk in and they give money. We all know this. But the more you know when you get there and the more comfortable you feel. And so programs like at the Women's Business Center gives you that opportunity to be more prepared. So when the various programs like PPP or IDLE comes along, um, you're already ahead of the game because these programs have short windows. There's people across the country that are applying for them. And so the reason for having to have two different programs for small businesses, because there were so many businesses that were ready. And before you knew it, that window had closed, the funding was gone. And so there were micro and macro businesses that did not get that opportunity. So I can't say it enough. Preparedness is always important. Being ready to go when opportunity knocks. So, Brande, thank you for that. So when we talk about, I have my certification, now what? We've established that certification is a competitive business tool, not a guarantee of business. You have to research the company that you're pursuing. Understand what's important to the company, build relationships, and be patient. For an example, when I was a supplier diversity manager and I was out on the road and going to different conferences, whether it was at WeBank or the NMSDC, when I would be there, I would have small businesses that would come up to the booth and they would say, "Oh, you're Hallmark. So what do you do? Do you have marketing? Or do you just have writers and artists? And kind of tell me more about your company," which was interesting because you would think that if you're interested in a company, then you would research and know what that company not only offers in products or services, but their internal workings to a degree, in terms of you would know that that company has marketing and procurement and HR and all those things that most companies have. So that's why it's so important to understand what are some of the problems this company might have. As a card company, the world is changing. And so technology and digital is company. It's on the forefront, not coming. It's here and it's not going away. And so bringing those type of solutions in terms of how to help a company remain relevant and viable. Those are the things that companies are looking for today, because not only for small business, it's a very competitive world for larger corporations. Everybody is looking for a way to do it faster and still have good customer service. So being able to show a company how you can help them solve their issues is very, very important. So once you get the certification, opportunities just don't start, the doors, someone's at the door knocking, because all these opportunities are there, the sky opens up. You have to do the work. You have to continue the networking and the reaching out and getting information. So it can be done. It's just a part of strategy. It's a part of the strategy that you set for the company. Now that we have it, what are the steps that we're going to take to make sure that we're at the right tables, to make sure that we're doing the government contracting? So that's why it's important to make it a part of your business goals and objectives. What are you going to do with it? How many certifications do you want or need? And who do you want those certifications to be with? Those are all important questions to ask. And then once you have them, just like any of your other business strategy, it's all about execution, being able to execute and get the job done. So Brandy, do we have any questions at this point?
Mary, we don't have any questions that I'm seeing right now.
Okay. So we've got a quiet audience.
We do.
Well, hopefully someone will have a question, because I know, again, it's a lot of information, but we all know that information is key, knowledge is key. And the more we're armed with good information, the better off we are in terms of getting the job done. So when we look at, the certification process, we ask the question, are you ready to leverage your certification? So have you defined your target market? Research the issues, understand the buying behavior and your competitors. So you don't want to spend a lot of time on your competitors, but understand, what are they doing? How are they doing it? What are their marketing techniques? Just to make sure that you are relevant, and that what you do stands above the rest of your competitors. You're going to identify your competitive advantage, and then you're going to develop a capability statement. So, for an example, most government as well as corporations ask that you go to their portal, go to their website, and then they have a company portal, and then you put your capability statement. Well, they ask for your capability statement because they want to understand at a glance who you are. What differentiates you from your competitor? What are some of the experiences or contracts that you've had? Do you have a DUNS number, cage code? Just information at a glance that will get their undivided attention. And it's always nice that when you're like a business resume, that you take that capability statement and you can tailor it. So if there's a particular company that you're going after, then you tailor your capability statement to maybe include their logo or something that, is an attention grabber. Again, setting yourself aside from the competitor. Registering in the portal, attending the matchmaking events. Because no matter whether it's government or corporations, what they are looking for, they want to make sure that the businesses that they're going to form those relationships with, they're solid, profitable, sustainable, scalable, competent, capacity, and flexibility. So as far as for an example, the federal government, you have this big contract. They're going to want to make sure that you have the capacity and the flexibility to do it. And so if you don't, then considering a joint venture, forming a partnership where you go in, you get the job done. We all know that there's, legal paperwork that you can sign that says that when this is over, that you're not representing each other as one company only for this particular contract. And then everybody goes their separate ways. But it allowed you to add one more big project to your capability statement, saying this is something that you've done. And it just gives you more momentum for the next RFP, because now you've got several projects that are of large scale that you can put in your information. So again, it's just like your personal resume. You critique it according to the job that you're applying for, using those skill sets that they would be looking for. So it's the same difference when you look at your capability statement, your business resume. And we always want to think about, you need to be able to under promise and over deliver. So for an example, you're working on a project and they say in the RFP or the scope of work that this particular project ends at a certain date. Certain reports have to be turned in, a summary of what has taken place. It's always good to be able to maybe hand that in a couple days in advance or a day in advance, just to show them that you are flexible. Because most small businesses, the difference between the small business and maybe the corporation is that the small business is more flexible, more nimble, can turn and make those changes rather quickly. Whereas a corporation, you've got several handouts and hand downs and approvals and I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. We've all been there where even working with a larger company, there's a lot of handoffs and people who have to, sign off on things and etc. So it takes longer. Whereas a small business, you can be faster and flexible, and then of course, be cost effective. Bring those cost savings to the table because companies know that when they have an incumbent in an RFP process, that their switching cost, and normally switching costs are about 3%. So to go from an incumbent to a new business, bring them in so they can get acclimated to what's been going on in the culture and in the company, that's 3%. So being cost effective is another thing because we want to be able to get that opportunity. We don't want to lowball, but we want to take into consideration that most companies are looking for. They're looking to lower their costs, their bottom line. When we look at the process, we start with identification. So you identify the market, meaning city, state, federal, or corporations. What is their problems? What are the pinch points? What can you do to help them solve the problem? What is your value proposition? So knowing your company and knowing the skill sets that you have in the individuals in the company, what are you bringing to the table that perhaps you have something that your competitor doesn't have? Maybe it's years of experience or the skills, or maybe you're really good with technology. Those kinds of things. That is your value proposition. And so with your capability statement, you're including some of those things that's making you stand out. Talking about what is the benefit or the impact, the cost savings that you will bring to that entity. And then you follow up and you network and build a relationship. And then the process starts all over. So it's a never ending shoring up things, to course correct, to be flexible and nimble enough to say, we can take on some additional, but making sure that you can deliver on anything extra that you take. Or if something should come up and you're asked the question, can you take on this particular project? Just making sure that is something that's in your wheelhouse and that you can perform. So as we talk about the capability statement, a snapshot of your company that serves as a resume for your business. It's a concise overview of the qualification and your experiences. Must be tailored to your audience. That's the best way. You can have a generic, but if you know you're going after a particular company and you know what that company is all about, I would make sure that those are the things that you glean that stand out so you can rise above. It's a clear value statement. What makes you different? It's the key to building relationship with the decision makers. It's a marketing tool. So you can use it in several different ways. You might be having a conversation with a potential client, and why not send them a copy of your capability statement so they can know in advance of that Zoom call who they're speaking with and what you can do. So it can also help to generate conversations. I mean, especially when you know a little bit about them and you've included some things that they can pull from that and have a conversation on. That all that kind of information always helps. And so this particular one is, there's various styles of capability statements, but basically what you want to make sure is that your company name, address, and website is upfront or very clear. Believe it or not, I've seen capability statements that had all this wonderful information, and then the contact information, you didn't know who to contact. They had the company's name, address, and website, but they didn't have their own information of who they should reach out to. So it's just one of those things that when you stand back and you take a look at it. So when I'm working with clients, they've got their certification or we've gone through that process, then the next thing I will work with them if they need it is working on their capability statement so they can make sure that their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed because it's such an important document. The past performance, the company data, which you can include your revenue if you choose, the number of employees, your DUNS, your NAICS, what certifications do you have, your CAGE code. CAGE codes are more directed to the federal government, who has a strong interest in that. So if you are pursuing the federal government, having your CAGE code information is very important. So in summary, certification can increase the visibility of a diverse business, small or diverse business. You must decide if it's right for you. What are the benefits to you and your company? Do you feel a particular niche in the market? Are you willing to form a strategic alliance with other small businesses? And are you missing out on opportunity? Because once again, when opportunity knocks, it's always better to be prepared because the process takes some time to get it all done and to have site visits and get you vetted. So it's better to be ready for that. And again, whether it's city, state, or federal, or corporations, they're looking for women-owned businesses. They're wanting to diversify their supply chains. They have set-asides. The federal government calls it set-aside, city, state, and corporations look at it as they want to spend a certain percentage with those businesses to give them an opportunity to grow their businesses. Because when you think about it, we're not only business owners, we're consumers. And as a consumer, I want to know what businesses, what are your values? What's your mission? What do you stand for? Who do you support in the community? What kind of things do you do? And so companies realize that, with technology, people are very savvy with having an understanding of what that company believes. And if you don't believe in giving opportunities to small businesses, you're not involved and you're not taking a stance on the importance of making sure that women-owned businesses are getting those opportunities to perform, to have those conversations, then it's not a good thing. So as a company, when you do your social responsibility report, it's a great thing to be able to add, and when you have that top-down support and you're out there in the community and you are making a difference, it's so important to not only your company and to the culture, the employees, but it's so important to the community as well, because we're all a part of this ecosystem. And so when we work together to ensure that opportunities are there, if we're in a position to take advantage of the opportunity, we do just that. So we're ready to go when, once again, opportunity knocks. So I'm often asked, certification, I think it's right for me. So should I have that certification done by a professional, or should I do it on my own? So I put some benefits and concerns on both sides. And so I'll give you a moment to look over those. Again, it's almost like let the experts do what they do, to work less in the business and more on the business, looking at the strategies, being able to look at what's the direction we're going in. Were we able to pivot? Where are we from a marketing branding perspective? Do we have the right processes in place? Do we have technology to support it? All of those things that will grow your business. Do we have access to capital? We know we need capital in order to grow a business. So, do we have those things in mind? And lastly, do we have an exit strategy? So, at some point, if we want to leave this business and do something different, do we have what it takes to be able to sell this business? So, just something to think about in terms of the importance and can I do this? Sure, you can. It would take you more time, but it can be done. So I'm going to pause for a second and hopefully there are some questions because we're probably right at 1 hour. And so hopefully we have some folks that are wanting to either understand more or just some questions in general about certification.
And if you have a question, to pop it into the chat or Q&A. I don't see anything as of now. Mary has also shared her contact information, so you are definitely welcome. If you're not comfortable sharing your specific situation right now and you'd like to talk to her one-on-one, her contact information is listed on this slide. You're also welcome to reach out to the Women's Business Center. We can certainly help you to navigate
Brandy, I think you're frozen. Brandy.
Okay, I kicked off Zoom for a moment, but I'm back. What happened? So I guess once again, I would say thank you to Mary and thank you to everyone that joined us. We will be posting the recording of this session on our YouTube channel, which I did post into the chat box. So feel free to visit our YouTube channel and you can see this session. We'll probably have it posted early next week. And then you can also visit some of the other sessions we've been hosting over the last year. We've got a lot of really great content there, so certainly feel free to check that out. And thanks again, and I hope you all have a great day.